Alright guys, so that will be the end of the Resident Evil 3 playthrough. I know it's been like a few weeks since I last played the games, but I decided to make a full review on the Resident Evil 3 remake and my personal opinions on it. And the game is fun, very fun to play, very enjoyable to play of course, just like Res 2 Remake. But as an overall experience though, and considering that I have a lot of hope for this game since I played Resident Evil 2 Remake, 4 times. And I would hate to say this though, but I am a bit disappointed with the remake. Like I said, it's not a bad game. It's a good game, matter of fact. It's a really fun game to play. But is it a good remake? And that would be a no. And my expectation for the remake for Resident Evil 3 was pretty high. They did say, oh, we're gonna have Nemesis breaking through the freaking safe rooms, making safe room, pretty much not viable anymore. And I thought they're gonna expand on Raccoon City, the city aspect of it, a lot more, considering that Resident Evil 3, the original game, makes you do explore the city a lot more in the original game. But in the remake, it's definitely a big disappointment, a huge missed opportunity when it comes to the city aspect. The city segment was, in my opinion, just way too short. Resident Evil 2 Remake's city segment is pretty much like 5 minutes tops. But at least once when you get to the police station alone is already memorable. But the city segment in Resident Evil 3 just feels, not memorable, pretty bland and dull in my opinion. Although there are a lot of good details, throughout the city, and the game looks good with lightings and shadows. But just a missed opportunity because it's just too small. There's really not much areas you can go to, not much place you can explore. It's a huge missed opportunity, and I just wish Capcom would just work on that segment a little bit more. But and also that's another thing I want to talk about too, is that this game, you could definitely feel Resident Evil 3 remake was definitely rushed. They claimed they were working Res 2 alongside with Res 3, but you could definitely see that Res 3 remake, it was definitely not the most polished compared to Res 2 remake. When Res 2 remake came out, when it first launched, that game was solid. Everything runs well, it looks good, and after you beat the game, you unlock even more content afterwards. There's more stuff to do, like the fourth survivor, play as Hunk. The tofus about it thing. They added the tofus back, which is, I'm surprised they even did. When I saw the trailer and I saw a tofu at the end of the trailer, I was like, wow, they're gonna bring tofu back, and that's just amazing. To the point that they got most of the original content from Resident Evil 2 into the remake version. I love that. I love that they have the Hunk Fourth Survivor mode and the different types of tofus you can play as too. It's just amazing the amount of work and passion to put into that game. I don't know. Last year, Resident Evil 2 Remake was definitely one of my game of the year of 2019, just because it's so good. Like, you can't say no to Resident Evil 2 Remake. And matter of fact, I think the game is on sale on Steam, Xbox Live store, and PlayStation Store. If you guys can get the game on sale at a good price, highly recommend you check it out because it's so good. And that's what really made Resident Evil 3 Remake so disappointing, because I expected a lot more, which I should have kept my expectation, the hype level, in the middle ground. But it was so over the top that once I started seeing the goods and the bads, especially for the game, then that's when my hype just died down instantly. And yeah, it's just most of the segments in the game, it's just not memorable, really. Like, it's nothing really memorable about it. The only segment I will give praise to is probably the hospital segment when you play as Carlos. I think, in my personal opinion, the hospital segment was probably the most interesting areas to explore in Resident Evil 3 Remake, even though it is a small area to explore. But I don't know, it feels more like a little bit more like Resident Evil, with the type of exploration and gameplay. It just feels more like Resident Evil when you start exploring the hospital. But That's the only segment I think was pretty good. Everything else is not memorable. It's just not that great. And also another thing I like to point out is that Nemesis is probably the biggest downside of this game too. I expected Mr. X 2.0, to be honest. I expect Nemesis to be a force to be reckoned with, something that you literally have to run, which you do most of the time. But sadly, he is heavily scripted into into certain areas, to the point it just doesn't feel right. Like, I thought he's just gonna stalk you every time and all that stuff, and it does happen once the script is triggered, and it just feels not that great in my opinion. Like, when I get chased by Nemesis, it's more tedious compared to being chased by Mr. X, where you actually feel like he's actually chasing your ass, literally chasing your ass. In my opinion, I think Mr. X still more terrifying still compared to Nemesis. Nemesis looks really good. It looks very menacing, but sadly, he's kind of a big disappointment in my opinion. He's just, I don't know, they could have done so much better with Nemesis. They also got rid of the choices option too from the original game, where you have the option either, fight him or back away or use a certain object to try to slow him down. I think that's probably one of the features I don't mind leaving out, but for the hardcore fans, they are a bit disappointed they left that out, and I thought it would be a cool thing to have too, because the game originally supposed to have 3 different endings, I believe, maybe 2. I don't know. I haven't played the original Resident Evil game since the PlayStation, so I don't know too much about it. The only thing I know about the game is Jill, Nemesis. That's it. That's all I know. But yeah, there's a lot of missed opportunity in this game when it comes to that. Like, they could have altered the different areas you can go to. Jill at one point supposed to come back to RPD, which never happens in the storyline. Only Carlos was able to go to the police station. That's it. I kind of wish Jill would go back there, because if you play Resident Evil 2 again, there will be a note left by Jill in RPD, but she never goes there at all in Resident Evil 3. So now that whole note doesn't even make sense, because Jill has not been into RPD at all. So I don't know, they got the whole thing mixed up. It's a little bit of a mess though, I'd say. Story wise, it's pretty good. It stays faithful to the original game, but everything else, like I said, original content wise, it's pretty faithful. It's a reimagined version of the storyline of Resident Evil 3, and it's not bad, but they could have implemented it a lot better, I have to say. And what else I gotta say? And oh yeah, replayability. Sadly, this game, once you beat the game, that's it. Unless you want to, grind for those weapon stuff, which I have personally been doing, for the shops. When you beat the game, you unlock the shop, you unlock infinite weapons, coins, all this stuff. I did grind a little bit at it, but at that point, it's no point in playing the game again, because it's not like Res 2 Remake, where you got, Leon A and Claire B, and each have their own different storyline, and everything's altered, like items, enemies, weapons, etc. Resident Evil 3 is it's a one-way ride essentially. Once you beat the game, there's kind of no point playing it again, unless you want to speedrun it or go through it without taking damage, or it's pretty much a speedrun simulator at this point, because the game is so short, and you just know it's just, I don't know, it's just so easy. Like, even playing the game on hardcore, I felt it was a little bit easy too, and the zombies were a bit aggressive, and Nemesis boss battles were a pain in the ass to handle. But likewise, hardcore wasn't too bad. I haven't tried Nightmare mode. I might do another run for Nightmare mode. And apparently there's another difficulty setting called Inferno, which makes the game even more harder. So we'll see how it goes as I play the Nightmare, then to Inferno. I don't know. But if we do going to start a new run on Nightmare or Inferno, we're all going to be switching up the mods. I do got a lot of mods for Res 3. A lot of good decent mods, as a matter of fact. And we're going to use them, of course. just to enhance the game a little bit more, make it the game a little bit better. Also be using WeChat as well. But I'm probably not going to be doing a nightmare run anytime soon, because currently I am doing a Resident Evil 4 playthrough, and it is a blast in going back into Resident Evil 4. Reason why I'm going back into that game, because Capcom is apparently making a remake to Resident Evil 4. I don't think it's not necessary, but I don't mind it, because Resident Evil 4 in re-engine and improving the gameplay aspect wise, I think it will still be a pretty decent game, as long as they don't fuck it up like they did with Resident Evil 3 Remake. As long as they keep almost all the original content in there, I'm fine. Like, you can't just do that where you do a remake and then you take out all the original content. Like, all the original content in this game that they have, you're supposed to be fighting a giant worm called the Gravedigger. That whole part was cut off. There's a park segment in Raccoon City that was cut off too. And then there was, let's see, what else they have that they cut off. Oh, the famous clock tower. A lot of fans did not like that when they took out clock tower. I expected to go to the clock tower. It was there as a reference, as a background burning, but you don't go in there, so it sucks for the hardcore fans that wanted to go to clock tower, because it's not in this game, sadly. So overall though, it was just a huge missed opportunity in this game. There's a lot of stuff they could have polished up. And also, another thing I want to mention too, the graphics, despite how good it looks, definitely have a huge downgrade when it comes to the physics wise and some visuals here and there too. So there's no ragdoll effects for the zombies. That's my complaint, my personal complaint. But the biggest downside is that the dismemberment is toned down by a lot. Because if you guys remember in Resident Evil 2 Remake, if you shoot a zombie in half with a shotgun, you will see the zombie slowly tear, you can see the whole flesh tear itself apart as the zombie split into two. You don't get that anymore in Resident Evil 3. When I first saw that in Res 2 Remake, I was like, holy shit, that looked really cool. And when you shoot their arms off, you can see the arm, freaking going flaring like that before it just slowly tears itself apart. And I was like, damn, that's brutal. I don't know. And the weapon sound don't sound that great either. I think the weapon sounds also a downgrade too. Everything just doesn't sound that good. Besides explosions, but the gun sounds a lot worse in my opinion compared to Res 2 Remake. Like overall, I think the visual definitely took a huge downgrade, sadly. They still haven't fixed that 30 frames animation when you're from the distance with the zombies, where you see the zombies in like 30 frames from the distance with the frame rate. I think they only did that to optimize the game, which I understand, but if it's on PC, keep that shit on cap, because it does kind of bothers me just a little bit. But if the game engine is so optimized, you don't need to limit the animation to 30 frames. Like, look at DMC5. That game is re-engined. That game is running a solid 60 FPS, if not higher. So, I don't know why the guy limited for Resident Evil remakes. I don't know. But that was all the bad stuff about it. Let's talk about the good about this game. One, the game is very optimized to the point you can play this game with low-end hardware and you will not have a problem. The game also looks absolutely amazing. Character models, facial animations, they look fucking amazing. Especially Nemesis, Even though a lot of people don't like his new look, I don't mind his new look. He just looks so menacing, his new look. Like, just the amount of detail on his, his face and all that stuff. It's just fucking amazing. And of course, the story is good. Like I said, it's more of a reimagined version of the Resident Evil 3 story. But overall, I think it was a good story. It somewhat stays true to it, especially the last boss fight scene. I didn't know that was actually all original, because I thought it was all made up content. But I guess Jill does get a fucking huge ass railgun and blasts his Nemesis from a fucking oblivion. So I do appreciate it too that apparently that they used the original soundtrack that you battle Nemesis with the railgun, and that was in the original game as well. So it's cool that they remastered that soundtrack. That was pretty cool. I was like, hey. And overall, the game, since it's pretty much Res 2 Remake, the gameplay wise is very, very good, very enjoyable. Inventory management is still the same, so So if you remember how to play Res 2 Remake, then you're gonna feel right at home when you come back playing Resident Evil 3. It's just spot on. And the cool thing I like about Resident Evil 3 is the dodge mechanic for Jill. I think, in my personal opinion, that's probably one of the most overpowered abilities you can have in the game. Makes the game so much easier to navigate the zombies, especially if you go for a second playthrough. You know what to do exactly. You don't have to run away from zombies like a little bitch like Leon. You can just go dodge. And the cool thing about it, when you dodge, when you aim your weapon, it activates bullet time, which means everything slows down and it gives you the time to hit the enemies at the critical point. I think it does double damage if you shoot during the bullet time moment. I'm not entirely sure, can't confirm yet, but it will pretty much lock on to your enemy instantly once you start aiming after the dodge mechanic. So keep that in mind, use that as your advantage, especially if you try to do a speed run. Use that as your advantage because that will save your life. I think, like I said, it's one of the coolest things you can do in the game. You just go and dodge. But you can't do it, you can't spam it though. Of course, you have to time it right, so you can't spam it. So keep that in mind. You're gonna have to do it when they're literally about to attack you. So it's kind of like doing parries in Dark Souls, or especially Sekiro and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So keep that in mind. Don't spam the dodge button because that might get you killed. And another cool thing I like too is that when you play as Carlos, he does not get the dodge mechanic, but he basically turns into One Punch Man. When the zombie is about to attack you, you can activate this little shoulder ram that he does, and when the zombie's about to attack you, for his counter, he just punches them and they go fucking flying back. So like I said, Carlos basically becomes One Punch Man. Very useful for crowd control and also looking badass in style too. So, but overall though, I do like the gameplay wise. The character wise are pretty good too. Jill, she can be a little bit too sarcastic at some point, but she looks good. The voice acting is pretty good too. Carlos, everybody, all the characters, they just look good. The acting was pretty good too. It's not that great, but it's good though. And you got Carlos looking like Keanu Reeves from freaking John Wick if you choose the default look. But they also have the classic here too. I kind of wish you get the classic outfit that he wore in the original game too, but you can get that with a mod, so check that out. But overall though, the characters are pretty good, the story is pretty good. The game just feels more like a 90s action B movie in my opinion. It's not a bad thing, I like that. But I do prefer the more grittier survival horror aspect of Resident Evil 2 Remake. But hopefully, if they do a remake for Resident Evil 4 or hopefully Code Veronica, they'll keep the spook level pretty high. Because even Resident Evil 4, there were some spooky moments in that game. But with the remake, maybe they can make it a little bit more spookier. I fucking hope so. But overall, though, Resident Evil 3, probably give it a 7 out of 10, in my opinion. Like I said, the only thing I would scratch off is lack of original content, all the original content cut out. Disappointing Nemesis encounters, and a lack of polishing too as well, because the game just felt rushed. It's just everything. It just felt rushed, and polished, not unpolished compared to Res 2 Remake. And the visual degradation too also will be taking a scratch off for that too. And also another one, no classic soundtrack option. Capcom, what the fuck are you doing? Gotta do a classic soundtrack option, please. But more likely it's not gonna happen since they're putting full work into Resident Evil 4 Remake or Code Veronica, whichever shit they're working on right now. But hopefully one day they will release classic soundtrack swap, because I thought that was a really cool thing for Resident Evil 2 to have the original soundtrack. And matter of fact, that classic soundtrack DLC for Res 2 Remake made the game, my gaming experience for that game, even better, because I played Res 2, the original game, and playing that classic soundtrack in the remake it takes me back in the good old days when we were playing fucking Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation, all that shit. Good times, man, good times. But anyways, that is my full honest review on Resident Evil 3 Remake. It's a good game, fun game to play, but if you're expecting a lot from Res 2 Remake, and you're going to be disappointed. Highly recommend you guys pick this up on sale because it's not worth the $60. This game feels more like an expansion DLC for Resident Evil 2 Remake in a way, but it lacks the polishing, and the good stuff from Res 2 Remake essentially. So, but another good thing I forgot to mention: some new enemies you fight. You got the Demios to calm, the mutated spiders you fight in the power plants. Absolutely disgusting, very freaky to look at too, especially playing in 144 Hz monitor and with G-Sync on. Definitely crawls up your spine. You got the fish things too, or the toad mutated things in the series. Forgot the name of it. I think they're called Gamma or something like that. I thought that was pretty cool too. And of course, the lizard mans, the hunters, those guys. They're part of the coolest looking enemies in the whole game, in my opinion. Like, it's cool that they kept the original look design, but they also add some new touches to it too, like the fucking predator mouth that it has. But I thought it was pretty cool to have them back in the game because they were in, I think they were in the first Resident Evil game. I'm not sure, but it's good to see them back because you can't never say no to lizard man. That's all I gotta say. But yeah, 7 out of 10 on this game. Good game, fun game to play. Just not as great as Resident Evil 2 Remake, and I really hope Capcom will take the time to remake the game. So it could be Res 4 or Code Veronica, but I'm really fucking hoping they'll take their time and add in all the good stuff, the polishing and all that stuff. Because if Resident Evil 4 Remake comes out and it does not have mercenary modes, Capcom, Capcom, I'm just gonna lose my fucking mind if the game comes out but there's no mercenaries mode. I'm gonna be really fucking pissed. That's all I gotta say. But anyways, I'm gonna end it here for now for Resident Evil 3 review. I'm probably not gonna come back to doing a nightmare run anytime soon, but when I do, I will be modding the game to at its max essentially. And as you can see here in the menu, guys, I'm definitely interested in doing some more, Resident Evil Resistance. Pretty much it's their own spin on it's pretty much the multiplayer version of Resident Evil. Pretty much if you play Dead by Daylight, it pretty much has the same thing where you got the mastermind that controls the killers, the zombies, and you are the survivors that you have to escape the facility essentially. So in a way, it's pretty much Dead by Daylight but Resident Evil style. So survivors pretty much plays just like Resident Evil 3. Mastermind kind of plays like an RTS type of style game where you'd be able to play zombies and creatures in certain areas, like especially traps, lock the door, or you can do all kinds of stuff, and I'm really interested. So I'm kind of curious how it goes. There's been a lot of updates for this game, for this version of the game too. So I think they added push to talk now, which is a very good thing. Not sure if the matchmaking is still peer-to-peer or not, but I'm definitely very interested in playing some Resistance. So I'm probably going to be making a few videos. Probably play as a mastermind, survivors, and then once I level them up a little bit more, I can show you guys some of the cool stuff, such as playing as Mr. X, Birkin, etc. But hope you guys stay tuned for that, because I'm going to be doing that right after this video. So other than that, guys, that's going to be it for Resident Evil 3 review. Get it when it's on sale. Don't pay them full price. But overall, it's a good game. Overall, good Resident Evil game. Not a good remake, of course, but it's a good, very fun, and enjoyable game to play. So other than that, guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you guys didn't, hit the dislike button. It's all up to you. And if you guys want to see more Resident Evil content or any other games you want to suggest for me to play, leave the comments down below and I will check them out. But yeah, guys, until then, I will see you in the next one. Peace.